One of our fantastic youth group members, Irene, came back recently from doing a mission and service trip to the Philippines. And Irene is a very bubbly, effervescent girl all the time, but she's come back particularly animated from this trip, so excited and so overjoyed at what she and her classmates were able to do. She said that they were able to help go to a school and help build a new classroom and help paint a classroom that had already been built. And so these kind of mission and service trips are becoming increasingly popular in different schools these days. Maybe you've been on one yourself or you know somebody who has. And I think these are really valuable experiences, but maybe not for the reason you first think. Because you must wonder, did that school in Cebu really need a bunch of Australian teenagers to come over and help paint a classroom? Well, almost certainly not. They probably had plenty of people there who could have done the exact same work. But the benefit is not just in the work that gets done. The benefit is in two other really important ways. And the first is solidarity. That Irene said it meant so much to the young people and the families she met there that they came from Australia to come and help, to come and meet them. There was a sense of solidarity that we care about people beyond ourselves, and they felt cared for and loved by the mission trip's presence. And that, I guess, underscores for us the internationality and the interculturality of the church. We are a global church, a worldwide church, and we stretch our arms even across oceans to help one another, and that's a good thing. But maybe the even more important thing is that Irene said she just loved being able to serve, loved being able to help and make a difference. And that's probably the real value of these mission trips, that we are giving young people an opportunity to discover the joy of service. This is something which we need, I think, to help our young people have, because we don't have a culture that really embraces service by and large. We expect that we will be served, but if we get bad service, then we get angry, we complain, or we at the least leave a bad Google review. We are not so much geared up to desire to serve others, and yet if we are followers of Jesus, then we have to do exactly that. And this is what we hear today in the Gospel. We hear the contrast between Jesus himself and two of his followers, James and John. Now, James and John, they're apostles. They are now saints in heaven. They are good men, but at the time of the Gospel here, they didn't totally get Jesus' way of doing things. They were clamoring for position, for prestige. If they were getting paid, they would have wanted a pay rise. They were in it for themselves and what they could gain. By contrast, though, as Jesus kind of tamps down, hoses down their expectations, he says, I, the Son of Man, have come not to be served, but to serve. And in doing so, Jesus makes service really the hallmark of his ministry, and it should be the hallmark for us who desire to be his faithful followers as well. Jesus, we know, served in many ways. He cared for those who were sick, he healed those who were in need, he fed those who were hungry, he consoled those who were fearful. But Jesus' greatest service was that on the cross. And Jesus said that I've come to give my life as a ransom for many. That was Jesus' ultimate service in giving his entire life. So how then do we take on a life of service? How do we be Christ-like? Well, like Irene and many young people doing those mission trips, there are great opportunities to serve. And increasingly, a lot of schools are also offering community service hours where young people have to do maybe 20 hours in a year of some kind of voluntary service, and many of those young people do things like that here in our church and get signed off and ticked off to show that they've done their hours. The Duke of Edinburgh program also has a service component. So there's some great scaffolds, I guess, for young people particularly to get involved in service. And I think that's so important for young people to develop that appetite to serve. Because if young people can discover an appetite to serve now, it can inform their career choices, their vocation choices for the rest of their lives. For all of us here in our parish, certainly here at St Gerard's, at Carlingford and OLHC at Epping, we have a wonderful volunteer culture already. Like every parish, we are a volunteer organisation. We have a very few staff, but we have hundreds of volunteers. Most of the work, most of the ministry is done by volunteers here in our parish, by parishioners. Earlier this year, when we had our annual Volunteers Thank You Dinner, I hand-wrote the invitations, and there was more than 300 people in our parish who are signed up and committed to some kind of volunteer ministry. But I know so many people in our parish do volunteer work beyond the church. They do it in Meals on Wheels, or they do it in their other local organisations, or they simply visit the old lady next door and take her shopping, or they mow the lawn for the old man across the street. There's so many ways in which we can serve others, at least in volunteer capacities. But what about our work? For most of us, we spend many more hours at work at our paid employment than we possibly can spend in volunteer service after hours. Can our work be our service as well? My friend Ben has had a really wonderful kind of reinvigoration of his faith and his commitment to Jesus in the last couple of years. And he asked me last year, Jim, how can I serve? I want to find ways to serve. And he was sort of trying to brainstorm some different volunteer opportunities for him up on the Central Coast. But I said, Ben, what about your work? You work in a hospital. Ben's job is it's called a hospital scientist, where he's the one, if you have a brain scan, who puts the pads and the electrodes on you, and he's up, working up closely with you, helping set you up for the medical tests. He's working hands-on with people who are scared, they've got a brain tumor, people in very vulnerable moments. I said, Ben, do you think that maybe this is your main way of serving? Can you frame it that way? Can you make it when you get up in the morning and you pray about your day? You pray, Lord, help me to serve those I work with and work for today. Help me serve these patients well. And Ben said just recently to me that this has just changed the way he experiences his job now. That he measures success not on whether he had a good day for himself, not on whether he got to lunch on time or the computer worked well or whether the boss was nice to him, but rather, how was I able to serve those people whom I worked with today? Was I able to make them feel calm in a stressful situation? Was I kind to them? And so by reframing his job as service, he said it's completely changed the way he feels about his work. And that, I hope, would be something that all of us could do. So I invite you to think about your work. Can you see your work as your service? Are you serving others in and through your job? Now, sadly, I think for some of us, that might be really hard to see. Some of us are now doing a very specific piece of such a complicated legal or planning or financial process. It might be very hard for us to see what work we're actually doing, who we're really serving. And in fact, Karl Marx's fear for workers being alienated from their labour, which he thought was going to happen on factory floors and production lines, may be happening for our white-collar workers too. So it's important to try and see, how am I serving? Is my job actually helping make the world a better place? Am I doing something worthwhile for somebody? If not, it might be time to get a new job. Because if we don't have a sense of what we are doing is purposeful and worthwhile, our job, no matter how well we are paid, no matter how good our conditions are, will end up being frustrating and draining about our life. Yes, we can look to our volunteer ministries after hours as a nice balance to our work, but hopefully if we can make our work our main way of service, then we can pray into our day. Lord, as I begin this day, give me your grace. Lord Jesus, show me how you want me to serve in and through my work today. And at the end of the day, we might be able to look back and see, Lord, thank you for the opportunity I've had to serve. Lord, please give me your grace to serve you even better tomorrow.